table, midnight till dawn, till the time was up and the good stuff gone.
I am not talking about bypassing good technology. I am not talking about, not developing clean forms of energy. I am talking about, however, building a society that comes out of a class base, where now the class is not simply below it. It includes the workers at the point of production, but the class also includes the human beings who are living on the earth, whether in those places that are immediately in the path of the accumulation process, like the places above the bauxite in India, or above the coltran in the Congo, or above the tar sands in Alberta. But that it's seen that we have to analyze this from the standpoint of the class forces where capital is on one side and the earth and humanity is on the other side. That's why I call my book The Enemy of Nature. Because capital is the enemy of nature. Its mode of accumulation destroys ecological specificity, and we have to learn to make a different kind of world to live in. Now, yes, that requires solar energy. Renewable, yes. But the problem is, and this is the key, to have a switch from the current form of energy to solar energy means actually cutting into the rate of growth of capital. And yes, we look forward to a day of wind power, we look forward to a day of geothermal power, we certainly look forward to a solar day. But we must not kid ourselves in thinking that we can continue to have this kind of a day without interrupting the cycle of capital accumulation. That's my hypothesis, and that's an increasing number of people make that hypothesis. An economist, a Chinese, now American economist named Minchi Li from the University of Utah, has calculated these scenarios, and he points out, just within the logic of climate change, that in order to keep carbon down to a point where climate change is tolerable, you're going to, all scenarios imply a permanent contraction of capitalist growth. Which means, since capital cannot tolerate a contraction of growth, which means it's going to be up against it. Capital will do everything to continue to grow. Humanity and nature must do everything to stop it from growing, but stopping capital from growing means capital is destroyed. Therefore, the struggle at this point is very specifically to think beyond capital and to build a form of civilization adequate to being beyond capital. That's the big lesson of today. You'll not see that in the mainstream press, but more and more people are beginning to draw this conclusion. To me, mean that the term eco-socialism is one that should apply to all this. And that is the following, that yes, justice is essential. Climate justice is essential. Climate justice means basically, as many of my colleagues have said, keep the oil in the soil. Just stop it from being taken out in the first place. Forget this nonsense with capping and trading. Okay. Now, we understand that all the world is going to be set against that. But we have to say, no, we can't go on this way. You're causing a holocaust to the planet. You just can't do it anymore. It's clearer and clearer. All right? But the point is, what are we going to put in its place? We do need to devise a world that's not simply technologically adequate. To repeat, I'm all for finding appropriate energy and light. But we have to devise a world in which that bugbear that haunts traditional economics, namely demand, is no longer the factor that it was. You know, they always say, well, and Marxist economists say the same thing. We have to increase consumer demand so that the wheels of production can get going again. But wait, if you increase consumer demand, then you're just hastening the breakdown of the planetary ecology. Okay? So then the notion is, well, I mean, how can we avoid that? We can't impose, rationing and controls over consumption and things. Well, first of all, you can, but that's not really the point. The real point is to build a society and to start small, but small and everywhere, to build a society that enables people to feel fulfilled in their lives so they don't need to consume. If you have a decent life, you don't need to consume. That's the substitute for the life. I sometimes tell my classes, can capitalism make the world, can make you happy? And they think, well, I don't know. Of course not. If capitalism made people happy, then they wouldn't be restless to consume. They wouldn't want to fill that emptiness in their existence. I mean, and this means, of course, this is so profound. It means the whole notion of progress isn't what it used to be. Progress is progress towards consumption, towards constantly expanding the demand we're placing on the planet. But the only alternative to that, in my view, is a life of fulfillment. The life of fulfillment can only come if every woman, man in this planet is capable of expressing her or his human nature fully, which means freely, which means in a socialist way. And to me, that's the issue of socialism. That's where the workers' movements come in, yes, but it's also where the peasant movements come in. It's where the forest peoples are. In Peru, India, no matter where. It's amazing how much bigger role these forest people are playing in the world than they did 10, 20 years ago. But it's the same role. It's the struggle for a realized life. And you can't struggle for a realized life unless you develop that notion of justice into one where domination is overcome in all its spheres and is replaced by our creativity. And this is really why our human nature is to freely create. And we are alienated, we are estranged by that, by all systems of domination, and obviously by the capitalist system of domination, which he spelled out. We have to get to that fundamental. That fundamental is, to me, the eco-socialist fundamental, because the freeing of lives, which has to be done, of course, in many different complex ways. It's not like you can sort of draw a chart and put a line around it, but you sense it, you know it. It applies to so many spheres of human existence, and it can be done what I call prefiguratively, so you do something that moves in that direction. That freeing of human lives is what constitutes the efflorescence of our creative power, and our power now not to create commodities and things for sale, but to create ecosystems themselves. That should be the object, to build an ecologically sane world. And to the extent that we can realize that and universalize that and build movements in that direction, I think a lot of young people are doing that, okay? So will we be in a position to escape the nightmare of this ecological crisis. And even if we are not, even if we don't escape, at least we will know that we exited this world doing the right thing. That's very important, that you fought the good fight. And the good fight is against capitalism and for the freedom of labor, the ability of people to freely create, which would be an ecologically rational way of approaching the world. And this is, to me, the path which we should be choosing and following through. Thank you.
You can also participate with your opinion on the environmental issues by going to nowpolit.ca and selecting the Environment and Natural Resources. There you will find 3 subtopics: regulations of natural resources. You will find international agreements like Kyoto and Copenhagen. And you will also find local, national environmental regulations. And remember, your participation is the essence of direct democracy.